All right, welcome to another episode of the Itty Bitty Podcast. My name is Perry Phillips. If you've been enjoying the show, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share. Make sure you tell all your friends about the show, and make sure that you've been checking us out, and make sure you're downloading all the episodes. This week, we're going to talk about something that I've been playing with since I was a kid, and I'm not talking about my testicles. Talking about video games. So my guest is Kamijace from the Weekly Cooldown, which is a video game podcast. And so he's going to come on and talk a little bit about some of the new video game news that's going on right now, a little bit about himself and his show. And we just kind of had a good time. So I also went on his show. So look out for that episode as well. But remember, this is not a podcast about video games. This is the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's anything but, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Itty Bitty Podcast! It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. It's the Itty Bitty Podcast. The Itty Bitty Podcast.
All right, and we're rolling. So my guest this week, I'm excited because we're going to talk about video games. So we're a new podcast here, so I haven't got to talk about video games yet. And my guest this week is Kamijace. And your podcast is the Weekly Cooldown?
That is correct.
So first, tell me a little bit about how you got into video games.
Oh, wow. What a long and sordid past that is. So I think it started with my mom. She got the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo Entertainment System way back in the day for my brother. And my brother and my mom both played it almost religiously. They would come home every day because they were so impressed with, video games and stuff. Actually, my mom also had the really old Atari video game too. And once I was born, I was also kind of indoctrinated into playing like Super Mario Brothers 3, Yo-Noid, stuff like that. My brother kind of stuck with it for a while. We actually had a fight one Christmas about which was better, the Nintendo 64 or the PlayStation 1. And he won that round, and we got the PlayStation 1. We ended up getting Metal Gear Solid. We ended up getting the first Resident Evil games, and it kind of took off from there. We kept up with our favorite series. I kept playing through. Even now, I still love Resident Evil. I still love Metal Gear. And it just kind of branched out from there. I started playing other games, buying my own my own video games for the consoles we had, like the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox. And it just kind of all went to pieces from there. And here I am, a giant nerd.
And so I just actually jumped in and listened to a couple of episodes before we did the podcast. On my way home from work, and you just celebrated your 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, 2 years doing that.
How's that been?
Oh boy. Well, it's been a journey. I'm still kind of learning the ropes. I'm a communications major. Well, I was in college. I graduated with a degree hoping to pursue journalism. Didn't exactly pan out that way so far. But I did discover while in college that I really liked audio production and, making little audio dramas and radio shows. And then I discovered podcasting in general. And then I was like, I think I could do that. I think I could get in there. And so with a really quick purchase from Yeti, shout out to Yeti, I decided to give it a go. Launched in October 2017. 2 years later, still doing it. So,
You have a killer
I guess we're
intro.
doing all right. Hey, thanks. I found it online.
Nice.
Shout out to, oh man, I can't remember his name, but shout out to the guy who made it. We're actually trying to get a new intro going. It's that, that one's like 2 years old now. So we're trying to get a new one going, but shout out to that guy.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you said Metal Gear Solid was one of the first games because it makes the first segue really easy. I just recently pre-ordered Death Stranding.
Oh, I hate you.
Are you not going to get it?
I want it so bad, but I see. So the terrible thing about being a gamer as an adult is that I can't go and beg my mother to buy me a console anymore.
Oh,
I have to get it
right.
myself. So I haven't actually had a console aside from the Switch, which I got last year, since the Xbox 360. And I didn't even get the 360 when it first came out. I had to wait a couple years and, that big old mess. But I really haven't had the Xbox One or the PS4 for myself before. I've played on other people's, but I've never had my own. And of course, the one game that I really want, and I could play on my PC if it was coming out at the same time as the PS4 release, is Death Stranding. But that won't be coming out for PC until I think May of next year. So either I get a PS4 like on a Black Friday sale, or I wait, like another 10 months or so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to just make it that much better for you,
I suppose. Yeah.
I'll think about you as I'm playing it.
I'll cry.
It looks really good. I've been reading way too much about it, and so as more and more I read, I just pre-ordered it impulsively, and so yeah, that's where I'm at.
It's the most cryptic thing I've ever seen come from Kojima, and that's coming from literally years of playing Metal Gear Solid. Every game he's ever made makes sense, but at the same time is the wackiest time that you'll ever have in any kind of video game ever. It's up to you to connect all these threads, and even if he kind of helps you connect the threads, you're still kind of like, okay, but none of what you said makes any sense, but I still love this game, so screw you, I guess.
Yeah, it looks amazing. From what I've seen online, it looks amazing, and it looks like it's going to be something really different, and
yeah,
I'm really excited to play it.
I'm so jealous of everyone who's going to be able to play it like this week.
I'm kind of glad that they're taking a step back from like a lot of heavy combat, and Metal Gear was always stealth based, so I'm kind of glad that they're incorporating some stealth, and it's just going to be a lot of just traversing through nothing.
What I think is really interesting about Death Stranding is that it arose kind of from Kojima's need, first of all, his desire to want to make a movie, and also his desire to want to make. He wanted to use Norman Reedus for Silent Hills, and if you remember, I don't know if anyone remembers really, but
I do remember.
There was this whole controversy with Konami and Kojima. They basically let him go. He wouldn't be making Silent Hills anymore because they wanted him to focus on the Metal Gear franchise, and he's very artistic and kind of insane. So he really, really wanted to make a ton of other games, and recently it's come out that he wants to branch out into movies. So he decided, well, screw Konami, I'll leave. And then PlayStation and Sony were like, oh, but we'll take you. And so, then he decided, well, I've got Norman Reedus, I'm going to bring in all these other big stars for a video game. I mean, Conan O'Brien is even in it. He makes some cameo appearances. So he's got this incredible star power that I don't think any other video game developer has right now.
Yeah. And the other thing too is I've been reading a lot about it, and I still know very little. Like I know kind of what you have to do, but for a lot of what I've been reading is left out a lot of spoilers.
He's
So
the most cryptic person on earth. And even if you were spoiled by the game, like, what are you going to get spoiled about? It's like,
right,
you don't know what it's about. No one knows what's going on aside from, like, you are Norman Reedus and you have a baby.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's right.
congrats.
There's a fucking baby. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's
And you have to
it's a
soothe it when
baby
it's
in a
crying.
tube. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, and talk about like crazy, creepy, cryptic things. The other thing that the baby does is when it starts crying, it's not like it's crying through just your television. It will actually use the PS4 speaker on the controller and
I
start
always
like
hate when they do
wailing.
that. Oh,
Yeah, but it'll start wailing at you on the controller, and I'm like, ooh, how
right.
fucking scary.
Yeah, that creeps me out. The worst, was it Resident Evil 7 with the first person when
Ooh,
you're in the house and you can hear things in the that come through the speaker. That was really good use of it. But
great game.
yeah, that stuff creeps me out when they use that really well.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
that's what it's supposed to do.
I guess the only kind of frame of reference I have for the PlayStation 4 controller speaker is how cool it was actually with Grand Theft Auto 5, that anytime somebody called you, they were speaking to you through the PlayStation 4 speaker, which I thought was a great use of that.
Right.
But to do it for to use it for creepy, scary, kind of cryptic games, no, thank you.
Yeah, I know. It just adds to it. It really does. So, of the different genres, since we're talking about scary genres, what would you consider yourself do you jump around to different types of games, or are you always
Yeah,
playing something different, or
yeah. So it's really hard to say if I'm any one type of gamer. I love RPGs. I love MMORPGs, shooters. I don't like MOBAs. Do not confuse me for a MOBA player. I don't like League of Legends. I've never liked League of Legends. I won't ever like League of Legends.
yeah, I never got into that.
But I do like, horror games. I love horror games. I've always grown up on platformers, so Super Mario, uh,
Are
all
you,
those other platformers.
are you gonna have to wait on Last of Us 2?
Yeah, I haven't even played the first one.
No.
I've never played
Oh
it. I
man.
see. I didn't have a PS3 either, so I didn't get to play it when it came out for
uh,
PS3.
yeah, that
Um,
that one might have gone down as like one of my favorite games of all
I
time,
missed
I
out.
think. You got to get on it later. I mean, it's you can play it at any point, and you're still gonna
Yeah.
enjoy it. So, but
I want
yeah,
to enjoy it with everyone else. You see, the interesting thing, like being so removed from console games, is that when I follow up on all these stories about like when the Last of Us 2 was being revealed, I was recognizing everyone's excitement, but I couldn't join in, and I was like, it's devastating to not be able to like harness everyone else's energy, so to
yeah.
speak, and really get into that excitement and roll with the punches, so to speak. And when oh man, what's the main male character's name again?
In Last of Us,
Yeah,
Joel.
Joel. Yes, when he was revealed in one of the recent trailers, and everyone was getting like extremely hype on the internet, I was like, I want to be there with you, but I can't. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh
It's the
yeah,
one. It's like one of those, like the one game I don't know enough about to like be excited with the rest of the world. So I'm like, okay, I'll just take a backseat, I guess, for once.
yeah. But here's the thing: there's always going to be another game that's going to have just as
That's
much
true.
hype, and
Yeah,
you're always going to get another one that you can jump on.
that's very true. That's
I
very
have
true.
friends that only play PC and they're happy as can be. So, you
That's,
know,
yeah. I will admit that dropping the, I won't say how much money on this computer to use it for kind of everything. I do, my gaming on it. I do any freelance work. I do the podcast on it. It was a good idea. I'm happy with the computer. It's serving me well. all the games look pretty. I might have to, replace a part or two just to keep up with the graphics of today and of tomorrow. So but it's a good investment. It doesn't. You don't feel like worn out after a couple of years when the next gen comes out, because you can just kind of replace a part or
Right. I
two,
was
and
gonna
then
ask
you're
if you can do that. Yeah.
yeah. I when I was first getting into PC gaming in particular, I had a friend who kind of walked me through the process of just not necessarily building one, but kind of buying a preset one and then an extra part to replace, so that you can kind of keep up, and you just have to replace a few parts here and there, maybe every couple of years, and then maybe if you last it that long with your current rig, maybe in 5 to 10 years, you buy a new preset and slap a new graphics card in or whatever, and you're good to go. And that's basically what I've been doing for years, is just kind of replacing old parts and trying to keep up.
Yeah. I feel like it's impossible to. There's just so many games for so many systems. Like I see about like Gears of War. I played the first one, and that shit was
Yeah.
dope. But I'm not
Yeah.
gonna buy an Xbox, like you said. I'm not gonna buy another system just because I want to play that game. I did actually convince
But
my wife to get a Switch as well, and she ended up
oh,
playing Breath of the Wild. She's not a big video game
great.
person at all. I mean, she would play a couple of two-player games here and there, but she's
Yeah.
she's trying to play through it 100%. She's still got it, playing through it. So I got her addicted
It's
to that
a
thing.
that's a great game. But the cool thing about PC gaming, especially now, is kind of how much the console game market is kind of filtering back into the PC game market. So with Microsoft, for example, they realized that their core game base, or their core customer base, is split actually between Xbox players and PC gamers. And so what they've done is introduce the Xbox Game Pass for PC. So if I wanted to play Gears 5, I could on my
Oh,
PC.
nice.
Um, and the same goes for some other recent releases. I've picked up The Outer Worlds, which I never thought I would like, but I'm actually really, really enjoying. And I got it because of the Xbox Games Pass. So it's Sony hasn't yet jumped on the bandwagon. They just only recently decided, yeah, okay, fine, we'll start doing cross-platform play. But I hope that at some point they'll kind of say, yeah, you know what, PC gamers, you can have this too.
What do you think of the Google Stadia?
I don't like it.
No?
I I don't know if it's as good of an idea as most people want it to be. I haven't tested it myself, I should say. So this is all mostly speculation and mostly just a lot of talk between other people. But what Google is doing is they're rolling out the cloud-based system in a huge way, so that people who don't have high-end PCs can play video games. And that's very cool. However, the way that they're doing it is through streaming. And if you've ever had any kind of issue with Netflix, or if you watch anime on Crunchyroll or whatever, that's not always the best way to view television. And it's certainly not going to be the best way to play video games, even if you really, really want to. Especially with online games, like fighting games in particular, will definitely kind of struggle with here, I think, because you have input lag. So if you're pressing jab, but then 2 seconds later you jab, like, that's a problem, and it'll be a problem for MMOs, and a myriad of other kinds of online games, MOBAs. If you're gonna play like League of Legends through Google Stadia, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing, but if you're trying to play these games through Google Stadia, you'll have some lag, like even on a potentially anyway, even on a good connection. And with the hopes that they'll roll this out worldwide, I mean, even some of the more developed countries still have horrible internet connections. Australia, for example, being I think the top country at the moment who has like decent internet, like good enough to play most games, but not good enough to stream an entire video game. So I don't know. I don't think I'm not a fan, and I don't see it going well.
Yeah, I just did the free trial of PS Now, and where I live currently, there's not many options for internet, and so trying to stream any of those games, it lagged so bad, and that was just, there was games that weren't that, like there was PS3 games that I was trying to stream that weren't going to stream on that connection. So
yeah,
it's just, I don't know how good of an idea it's going to be. It's almost as good as an idea as that Oculus by Facebook I saw ads for all day on Sunday.
Brands need to stay away from video games. and that's weird to say. That's super weird to say, because I mean, brands make the video games, but I don't want Facebook touching my games. I really don't. I want.
Oh, they
them to
would
stay
definitely
away.
scan your eyes and put it in some type of fucking database or something.
Oh, I don't need any of that. I truly don't need any of that.
So, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Oh no, there was a story that I had seen just the other day, or I think it was earlier today, actually, about a video game addict who died. This is in Thailand. So I don't know. Have you heard about this?
No, actually. Please tell me.
So apparently it was some kid, I don't know how, I think he was 22, and he was playing, I don't even remember what game it said he was playing, but he had played it for a few days straight and died of a stroke. I think his dad ended up finding him, and he said he had warned him about his video game addiction, and so I don't know how much of that is true or not, but supposedly. So it could be that, he actually died of a stroke from the video game, or I don't know. It doesn't say anything about foul play, but I just thought it was an interesting video game related story.
Yeah. So stories like this have been around for quite a while. There's a lot. Well, I mean, you could say this about most things. You could say this about sitting in an office for 8 hours, doing a whole lot of nothing. But there's a lot of risk that can come from playing video games. So if you have some kind of, you can have an epileptic seizure, excuse me.
Right.
You can, anything can really happen doing anything, including playing video games.
Especially if you're not sleeping.
Right. The World Health Organization has decided that there is such a thing as video game addiction. So it is possible that this person decided to, take his video game playing to the next level, and then of course passed away because of it. But I think what most gamers will tell you, even those who might say that they're quote unquote addicted, is that the harm in playing video games comes from sitting down too long. And a lot of gamers all over social media will like post about, making sure you get up and stretch, making sure you drink water, making sure you actually get up and go eat, because yeah, sometimes you are playing a video game, you're doing really well or something like that. You've been playing for, God knows, sometimes I have, for hours. And you forget, oh shit, I have a body.
Right.
So you have to get up and stretch. You gotta go drink some water, keep the circulation going, because sitting too long can stop your heart, really. And it's we're not trying to kill people out here. We're just trying to play video games, man.
So you're saying that this is kind of a good segue. So last week I did a show about sports, and NFL and some sports, and now we talked a little bit about esports as well, and now I'm doing a podcast about video games, and so that's kind of a similar kind of thing now, because esports are becoming more and more mainstream. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but I'd just be curious to hear what you think about esports and I guess so if you were to get injured, it would be from playing video games too much, I guess.
Yeah. So, if you're a really hardcore gamer, you could get like a carpal tunnel really early if you're a really hardcore gamer, which is why you should do your... Yeah.
Itty Bitty Podcast, we're teaching people things.
Listen, listen, with me, you're always learning. Um, but no, so it's really kind of fascinating actually because people don't assume there's a lot of risk or reward from playing video games, and esports is this massive, massive growing industry worth I don't know, almost if not more than the NFL right now. Um, and it comes out of people wanting to play video games competitively. The oldest esport really is, well, I say this kind of liberally, but the oldest esport right now, I guess, is fighting games. Fighting game. There's always been fighting game tournaments. There's always been Evo, hosted in Las Vegas, and there have always been these huge, massive prize pools for playing video games well, playing fighting video games well. Now we've just branched that out into, Overwatch, League of Legends, even Hearthstone, which is just a card game. I mean, you're just playing it online, I guess. And people are like, well, there's no skill involved. It's all up to chance. Well, sure, but aren't most sports part chance, part skill? I mean, you don't always catch the ball. You don't always score or whatever. You're always trying to kind of keep yourself one step ahead of your opponents, and it's no different in video games. If you've ever played Call of Duty, and I know like any of your listeners and my listeners have, you are always trying to one up somebody. You're always trying to keep ahead, always trying to get the kill streak, and so on and so forth. And that does come up to skill and certainly up to chance. There's not always going to be somebody around the corner because, they're thinking about you, you're thinking about them, and it's hard to explain, okay? But
no, I understand.
The point is,
no, go
ahead. There's an industry here, and it's growing, and it's large, and I don't want to say it's just as important as sports because there is a more of a health benefit, I suppose, to playing athletic sports. But I mean, having the analytical mind to play a video game like Hearthstone, knowing what each card does, knowing being one step ahead of your opponent, defeating them in some sort of mock battle, so to speak, there's something brilliant and kind of interesting about the way the mind works when playing video games. And I think that's kind of something we've tapped into with esports.
Yeah, I just wish I was better at competitive gaming.
Me and you both.
I like you just mentioned Call of Duty. I haven't played the new one, but I enjoy the single player experience. I heard there's a co-op on this one too, so I might pick it up. But
allow me to tell you something. A 16-year-old child won like $3 million playing Fortnite, and I'm pretty upset because like not even a tenth of that covers my college tuition. So, what am I doing with my life, honestly?
I know I've said it on the podcast, I think before that, my mom used to tell me to cut out the video games at a certain point, which, rightfully so. I should probably get some exercise, get out, this and that. And now there's people like Ninja blowing up, making millions of dollars. I'm like, that could have been me,
Yeah,
but
on like just Twitch.
Yeah. But now I'm like, give me Death Stranding so I can play it slow and steady by myself, and not have to see anybody. So,
although there also is, and I mean, you don't necessarily get paid for it, but you do kind of get this nice sense of community with single player games. If you are able to speedrun them rather, and speedrunning is a whole nother skill set all on its own. You have to play a game like a billion times to understand all the tricks to speedrunning, and some people even speedrun by glitching the game and like you fall through a wall and suddenly you're at the final boss of the video game or something like that. But there's communities built around these video games. Each individual video game can have its own community, and I think that's also really powerful too.
I would get so sidetracked if I tried to do a speed run.
I'm so bad at them.
Yeah, I would be good for the first like 2 minutes, and then I would try to go look at something and forget what I was doing.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how people do it. They can really sit and play like Spyro from the PS1 a billion times and finish it in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, listen here, buddy, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I respect it, but I don't like it all like that much. Yeah, there's like not happy about that at all.
That's funny.
How dare you?
What have you been playing for the Switch?
A lot of things. So the Switch, I picked up Link's Awakening, and the reason I picked that up was because, first of all, it looked cute. It was very cute. It was restyled from like '93, and being born in '93, I didn't get to play it, so I decided this will be my chance to kind of see what I was missing. And I guess they also included some things from a Game Boy Advance re-release that they did in probably early 2000s, I believe. And it was really, really enjoyable. It was a little easy, which is fine, but it had its own kind of charm and challenge to it. And I had a really good time playing it. And every so often my partner would drop by and look at the screen and kind of taunt me for losing, and I'd say, listen here, fuck you, buddy, it's not as easy as it looks, okay? But it's one of those games that kind of brings people over to watch you play it, even though it's not a multiplayer kind of experience.
Yeah, I'm in between that and Luigi's Mansion my wife's birthday is coming up, so I'm trying to get her a game for the Switch.
Sweet.
I might just get her, because she's not big on picking video games out, so I might just get her Link's Awakening, because she's good with the Zelda, so you'd recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't played any of the older Luigi's Mansion games, but there's kind of a cult following, and I say that, of course, because it's like an occult game. But there's kind of a cult following of Luigi's Mansion. People really enjoy the game. There's always a joke about Luigi's Mansion 3 because you get to have a multiplayer experience with the character called Gooigi, and it's supposed to be cute and very nice and funny, but it also like brings out the worst in people, and they make kind of lewd sexual comments about where Gooigi comes from and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, it's not that kind of game.
That's a real Mario Party. Sorry, that just got me sidetracked.
No, you're fine.
The other game I'm looking forward to, I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan or not, but the new Jedi Fallen Order, and it seems like people are mixed on it. I don't know if I haven't really seen any reviews on it yet, but that's coming out in a couple weeks, and
yeah,
a lot of people are worried because it's EA, but Respawn supposedly has control, so I'm not sure what your opinion on that is.
Respawn having control is nice. But EA always kind of finds a way to fuck it up somehow. But I think what I don't like the most about Star Wars games is that they kind of keep retelling some part of the story that doesn't fit in with the universe that they've been building for years and years now. So, Fallen Order, what was the one with the character who's like the dark side and the light side? I can't remember. It was for like PS2 or something, or Xbox 360. The Darkness Within. I don't remember.
Where you could play as either
like
the Sith or I think it was no, I was almost at the Force Awakens.
That's what it is. I think that's what it was.
But I think that's one of the new movies. but
Oh,
I might
well,
be.
I
I
don't
don't know.
fucking remember.
Yeah, we don't do any
Um,
research on this show. Don't worry about it.
but
I know
the
which
thing
one you're
that
talking
bothers
about,
me,
though.
the thing that always bothers me about Star Wars games is that they're always trying to retell some kind of story from some other person's point of view, and it never seems to quite puzzle in with the rest of the universe. Like it's all just kind of cameos from the point of view of some, and I hate to do this, but like some white guy, and it doesn't feel like they've put enough thought into the story as a whole and making it kind of mesh with the entire arc.
Yeah,
It just feels forced to me.
yeah, they
Forced.
they have you playing as like Ian Gallagher or something from Shameless on this
Yeah.
one.
Uh, I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing I'm excited about is because before they announced anything about it, they said that there's not going to be any what is it, expansions, any DLCs or anything like that. It's just a game for people who want to be a Jedi. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it's going to just be like a cool game to play as a Jedi, but we'll see. It might just
If
be
the
repetitive. It could be.
if the gameplay and the mechanics are good, I can most of the time overlook the story. Um, so hopefully it's a decent game at least. It's a decent playthrough.
Mhm.
Story aside.
Yeah, and not only did they go with the white guy, I don't like the whitest guy
Oh,
ever.
sometimes I just want to be like, hey, look, I'm a Jedi. Me, a black guy.
Hey, they gave you Mace Windu.
You never see him again. I've never seen a Mace Windu except for wow in the 90s or the early 2000s. He's gone.
Um, so I guess tell me a little bit about your podcast. And so you've been doing it for how many episodes are you in?
70 as of this Friday.
So I guess, what's been one of the interviews, I guess, that stood out to you video game wise that you've gotten to do, or like what's one
Oh,
of your favorite interviews that you've done? Either with your buddies or like if it was with somebody that you just, um,
so I kind of have two. When I first kind of started the podcast, I think about 10, 20 episodes in, I got a hold of Frank Cifaldi, who runs the video game history account on Twitter. I believe he also runs the museum in Rochester. I'm not entirely sure about that. Um, but he collects a lot of old video game memorabilia, a lot of old magazines and like video games themselves, really, and kind of produces them in a way that's kind of palatable to like the uh, person who's not fully involved in video games, all the way to like someone like me who's been involved for years and years. And listening to him kind of talk about the stuff that he's been able to get his hands on, like never released magazines, even, and listening to him be able passionately talk about like recreating some of the things that have never been released before so that we can see them in kind of like real time. It's really fascinating. And it was truly a joy to have him. I should actually reach out to him again and see what he's been up to. The other kind of interview I've had on the show is with a woman on in the fighting game community who goes by the name of Sharpie, as in like the marker.
okay.
She plays a game called Skullgirls, and it's a kind of cartoony looking fighting game. It was produced by a relatively small studio. All the characters are hand drawn. The mechanics are actually pretty decent, but it's not a like, and I say this kind of as an outsider, I suppose, but it's not like a critically acclaimed fighting game. It has a lot of great reviews. People do really like it, but it's not like you should play this constantly. It's the best game. It doesn't have very many updates, but it's still out there and it's still played. And she constantly will say on her Twitter page, play Skullgirls, no matter what. It could be about, the president did something, and she'll say, oh, gee, you know what? He should have played Skullgirls. Wouldn't have happened. And it's kind of jokey, but she is also really serious about it. And when I asked her about it on the podcast, she explained to me that she played video games when she discovered Skullgirls, but she wasn't really into video games. And so she heard about a friend of hers who was playing Skullgirls, who also happened to know one of the top fighting game champions at the time. And she was like, okay, well, I'll pick it up if these two are playing it. And she kind of fell in love with it. And she's very, very good at it too. She's amazing at most fighting games, but at Skullgirls especially. And what it kind of taught her, as she revealed it to me, is that you can apply the same discipline of learning to be really, really good at a video game to just about anything. And so she's been doing that, kind of disciplining herself the same way that she disciplines her like training regimen, I suppose, if you want to call it that, in Skullgirls, to kind of her everyday life. And it really impacted her in a really, really positive way. She got to be a commentator at a really popular esports event.
Oh, nice.
She and it's opened a lot of doors for her, just kind of being happy about playing the video game. And the other thing that she says is that if you like a video game, even if most people don't like it, you should still be happy that you like that game, and that there are other people who, based on your recommendation, may go and play the game and may enjoy it. So she's always encouraging people to go play Skullgirls. So, shout out to Sharpie for Skullgirls. She really, really loves that game, and I love her for it.
Yeah, there's it's funny because there's like, I was thinking about this on my ride home, how there's so many different styles of games and genres, and how everybody just kind of has their thing. And it's if you like something, you like something. And it's
yeah.
I've learned that if I like something, I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna like it no matter what. So the next question I was gonna ask you was, what's a moment in video games, I guess, that's like stuck with you that you think about?
Oh.
That you can remember like clearly. So like, I'll give you an example. So like for me, that first scene in that first demo that they had for Metal Gear Solid, when you get to play like from the elevator and you get to sneak your way in and you can break the guy's neck, and that was like the first time in a game I think you could like snap a dude's neck and do something like that. Yeah. And so for me playing that was like, I was like, oh, this is what video games could be. So that's kind of like, so was there a moment that you ever had that you were like, that stands out that you still remember, like, whether it's like shooting somebody in the dick or
it's so hard. I played too much video games, and it's so hard for me to pick any one moment, but the moment that always sticks out as to why I kind of enjoy video games is just kind of watching my brother play. So when I was younger, I want to say maybe I was like 7 or 8, maybe even younger than that, but we picked up the PS1, we picked up Resident Evil games, and I would watch him play those games. And watching him play these, at the time, very scary video games, while he kind of blasted Bone Thugs and Harmony in the background, it impacted me in a way that I don't think any other type of media has impacted me before. So it was kind of a brand new medium for me. And no matter what he was doing, he would always get scared. I would always get scared. And it was kind of like a moment we would share together where we were in the zone so much. We were like watching the character get mauled by a zombie or something like that, and we
As
would be
first of the month was playing in the background.
right. Exactly. And it was so exhilarating, and it was so like new, I suppose, at the same time, that it was just something that's always stuck with me. I can still kind of see myself laying on we had a bunk bed, so I'd lay on his bunk and he'd sit in the chair, and we'd keep the lights on because we were too scared to turn it off. He would play, I think it was Crazy Bones album that he was playing. And it was Resident Evil 2, and he's like running through this corridor, and then just like some dogs jump out at him, and we all just kind of freak out for a moment. He pauses the game and we chuckle, and then he takes a deep breath, and then he gets back into it. And it's moments like those that I still kind of cling on to for why I love and enjoy video games the way I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, you always just think about different times in your life when you're, because if you think about it, like for me, I'm a little bit older than you, but I remember, going over a friend's house to play Nintendo, and then as we got older, you would play Super Nintendo, and then
Right.
Nintendo 64, we would play 4 players playing GoldenEye, and then you would play Mario Kart or something like that, and it just kept evolving and growing, and so it's just kind of cool to see where it's going to go. Eventually, it's
Right.
going to be like indistinguishable from, they're going to get VR right now is just kind of, it's not good from what I've seen so far, but I'm sure it's going to be, indistinguishable from real life at some point.
Oh, I'm not ready for it.
I'm kind of ready for it, but not really. Like I would go to a facility and do it, but that Avengers one looks kind of cool.
Yeah,
But,
that's true. Yeah.
so are you excited for the Avengers game?
I'm not. I'm
Are you
never
like,
really excited for superhero games.
no?
I do enjoy them, and I think what was the last superhero game I played?
Spider-Man was pretty good. That one just came out.
I didn't get to play it still.
Oh,
Because
that's
it
right,
was
PS4 exclusive.
PS4 exclusive.
Yep.
Boo-hoo. But it was, I did see a lot of good reviews. I watched a friend play it. It was very good. I do still want to play that, actually. But I
That's-
truly can't remember the last superhero game I played.
That's really the only reason I'm kind of excited about it, just because Spider-Man was so good that I'm hoping that they've set the bar high for the Marvel games. So I'm hoping that, it's going to be, they're going to build on it. And I know it's a different company, but I'm hoping that
Right.
they do it well. So that actually kind of is going to segue into my next question, which would be, what are some games that you're looking forward to either in like the next couple months or in like 2020?
Oh, what a great question. So this month, Pokemon Sword and Shield comes out. That's a good game to get for your wife's birthday. It comes out later in the. Oh shit! It comes out next week.
I was actually thinking about that one. Is that more, which I can't remember what that one, like what style of game is it? I know it's going to be
So-
similar to RPG, but
Yeah, so it's kind of the most basic RPG there is. You have kind of a turn-based style game. You pick your attack, your Pokemon does the attack, and then the opponent does an attack, and then so on and so forth. But if she likes kind of something easy to grasp, something with an open world, and something with a decent amount of variety, Pokemon would be a really good, and this would be a really good first foray, I suppose, into Pokemon, because there's a decent amount of monsters that'll be able to, you'll be able to catch, and there will be some interesting new mechanics that are, never been seen before. And if she feels like it, she can always go backwards and play some of the older ones, and have a great time with Pokemon.
I found when I was back, my mom lives back east, and I was back at her house. I was going through my old toys, and I found my Game Boy Color a few months back, and the game that was in there was Pokemon Blue, and so I
Oh,
fired that up and played it for a little bit, and yeah, I left.
that's a
I
good.
ended up
That's
leaving it
a
there, but yeah,
that's a nice nostalgia trip.
yeah, that one was really good. I really liked it. Um, I actually was looking into that game, Sword and Shield. So you were excited for that coming up this month?
Yeah. I am still kind of upset that they haven't included all like 900 Pokemon in the video game. But yeah, I think I can get over it. There's some pretty cool mechanics. There's some decent looking new Pokemon. So I'll put my reservations aside for a bit.
Did you ever play Pokemon Stadium for the 64?
I did, but only at a friend's house. And
That was me too.
I think the reason I wasn't too interested in Pokemon Stadium was because it wasn't easy to kind of pick up and go the way the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games were.
Yeah.
Which is what I like about Sword and Shield too, is that it's technically the first console-based Pokemon game in the main line. So it's also a portable game in its own right, but it's also a console game. So I'm happy that we're getting that kind of mix there. The dichotomy. I like that word, dichotomy.
And so, what about for 2020? You have any games that you're looking forward to?
Uh, I don't. I don't know. I can't. Nothing comes to mind. I was super duper excited last year for Control, which came out this year.
How is
Two.
that?
Oh, it's the best game.
I've
I
only
think it's one of
seen
the.
ads on like Facebook for it, and so I
Have
was
you
skeptical of it. But
have you ever played Max Payne?
yes,
Okay, so Control is made by Remedy, who makes Max Payne. Um, the voice actor behind Max Payne actually makes some cameos in it. Have you ever played Alan Wake?
no.
Okay, there's Alan Wake is also made by Remedy. It didn't do as well as most of their games usually do, but it's still kind of a cult, again, like this cult classic. It's very cryptic. It's very kind of uh, uh, creepy, I guess. It's supposed to be a horror game. It's slightly scary, not really though. Um, and Control kind of touches on kind of all of these points in its own way. It's creepy, but it's not scary. It's action packed, but it's not like you're not like blowing people's heads off or anything like that. It's got the. Have you ever heard of SCP stuff like creepy pasta?
Yes.
It's got those kind of elements in it.
Okay.
It touches on these things called objects of power, which are like psychic items, like floppy disks, for example. It's an insane game, and it's so well thought out, yet so kind of random. And in the same way that kind of Kojima is very cryptic and doesn't give you all the answers, this game does the exact same thing and kind of keeps you guessing all the way up to the end, where I'm pretty sure they're really trying to set you up for a sequel, and I hope so. Please, Remedy, answer my prayers.
I'll
I
have to check it
need a
out.
sequel. It's very good. I would say get it for the PC if you could, listeners. But if you got to get it for a console, definitely do pick it up. It's fantastic. And funny story, I tweeted at Remedy because I got this really cool leather jacket that kind of looks like the one that the main character Jesse wears. And I said, oh, I'm gonna cosplay Jesse one day, and I actually got a retweet from them, and they were like, "Yeah, you should totally do it, man." And I was like, "Oh my god, I love you guys so much! Thank you so much. I really appreciate this."
Nice. So where can people find you?
All right. So as Kamijace not just Kamijace Gaming on Twitter. And you can find the podcast on Twitter as well at WK Cooldown, or you can visit the website wkcooldown.com.
All right, so I'm gonna jump off here in a minute, and then we can message, I guess, about I'm gonna be jumping on your show.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll let my listeners know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah, son.
As far as when it will air. But yeah, that'll be a good time. It'll be. I'm glad we did this back to back, so that'll be cool.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna jump off here, and then I'll just shoot you a message, and I'll talk to you later. And for my listeners, I'll see you guys next week. All right, see you later. Thanks for tuning in to the Itty Bitty Podcast. Thanks again to my guest Kamijace for coming on and talking about video games with me. If you've been liking the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, share. Tell all your friends about us. Check us out on social media. Check out the website, ittybittypodcast.com. We also have our other show, Choice Nugs Only, which is another weekly show that I've been doing for a long time. That one has a set co-host, so we just kind of fuck around. That one's a fun one. So if you haven't, checked that out as well. And if not, whatever, I'll see you guys next week. Peace.